Betts went 7 for 15 with a home run, 4 RBI, 2 doubles, 5 runs scored. Dodgers took 2 or 3. Here's Mookie Betts Friday before the game talking about returning to Boston and why it all went down the way it did.
I'll let Chaim and those guys explain that, or John Henry, whoever. I'll let them explain that. I'll let them explain it. If they ever want to explain it, I'll let them explain it. They don't have to, people. We're not even there, so it doesn't even really matter. We're in LA, and so those things, they're in the past, and probably just need to go ahead and leave it alone. But if someone was to explain it, I would let him do it. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or anything of that nature. But yeah, at the beginning, I didn't want fans to think that, they still do. It is what it is. But that think that I didn't want to be here and that he wanted to leave a couple years before I actually got traded or whatever. And I don't know where the narrative came from or how it came about, but that's what makes y'all sleep at night. Cool. But, that's not even remotely close to where I was mentally. Like I said, I thought I would be here and, but negotiations didn't go the way we had planned, and so you just kind of pivot.
All right, John Tomase joining us now. Your thoughts on what happened this weekend on the field, off the field, the whole thing.
Yeah, so Mike, if there were any doubts about what a massive, horrific, franchise-altering mistake the Red Sox made in 2020 when they pulled off this trade, they were all erased. It was there for you to see. And really, the thing that jumped out to me is the way the Red Sox are going about this to build their team on the cheap and with this guy and that. You need stars. You need stars to put people in the stands, and you need stars to win games. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman went 14 for 28 in this series. Mookie was a force. The Red Sox can't counter that force. It's Chris Murphy. It's Pablo Reyes. It's all these guys who they have decided that they can win with players like that, and you can't. You had the MVP, possibly the MVP favorite this year in the National League. You let him go for nothing. Sean McDonough said it. You will never live this down.
Okay, 1,000%, agree 1,000%. But let me just take 1 second to also point out Mookie Betts is full of crap too, isn't he? He talk about thought he was going to be here, wanted to be here, plan was to be here. He's overplaying that, John. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I can't argue with that, Mike. I covered his entire career from day one until he was traded. And believe me, when he says, I don't know where you guys came up with that, I'm like, hey, guilty. I'll raise my hand. I was one of the people writing that 2 years before because we all saw how this story was ending. It was ending with Mookie Betts wanted to get to free agency, and once you're there, you're gone. That's how that works. And so for him to sort of, try to portray it now as if he was stunned that it unfolded the way it did. Come on.
Right.
We knew that this is where it was pointed because he pointed it that way. And you know what? More power to him because he clearly made the right call.
Basically, every year they had to, go to court to settle his salary, whether it was arbitration or settling right before arbitration, year after year after year. And then he says, all along, I thought it was going to be here. Come on, let's just keep it real, Mookie, all right? All right, so now let's get back to bashing the Red Sox, please. And this, to me, is what I would be, that stands out the most to me, okay? It's what Chaim Bloom said about Mookie Betts when he was talking to reporters this weekend. He says, Mookie was one of the best players in baseball then, and he still is. This was never about our assessment of him. It was really about where the organization was, that we just were not equipped at that point to build and win around him. And I knew that coming in, okay? So he's saying he did not think we were equipped to win when they let Mookie Betts go. This was a team that won the World Series in 2018. It's a team that went to Game 6 of the ALCS in 2021. In 2020, it was the COVID year that was a wipeout. Even 2019, they won 84 games. So on what planet is he saying? And so, but I know what planet. So he says we weren't in a position to win building around Mookie Betts, even though they won the year before, almost got back to the World Series a couple years later, even though at the time, John, they had Brian Bayo in the system, they had Tristan Casas in the system. They had other top prospects currently, right now, in the system at the time. So why does Chaim Bloom keep going back to this?
Yeah, because to him, the farm system was barren. Everything needed to be rebuilt. You know that whole story. I just look at it and say, and I kind of made a similar argument at the time saying, if you want to trade Mookie now, if you don't think he's worth the money, whatever, I can get behind that. To me, the bigger sin is what they did afterwards, and just watching Bogarts leave and Evaldi leave and not bringing in talent to replace him. I always thought, okay, you don't want to pay Mookie. Well, you trade him, you get a good return for him, which did not happen, and you use the savings to invest in your team. That also did not happen. To me, that sin is as unforgivable as the trade itself.
Yeah, all it was the Baseball America ranking. At the time, in 2020 or 2019, the Baseball America ranking was low. And so Chaim Bloom looked at it and said, oh my God, we're in trouble. We're in bad shape, even though the Major League roster was excellent. No, oh my God, and now he thinks they're in much better shape because they rank 5 in Baseball America. He's only fixated, John, on the system ranking and not where the Major League club is. And I wonder if that's ever going to change.
I don't think it is. And what's crazy, Mike, the rankings, MLB.com, MLB Pipeline has them like 14th or 15th. ESPN has them 14th or 15th. So this like number 5 farm ranking thing, that is one outlet's opinion and one outlet only. So it's entirely possible that the farm system isn't really that much better now than the one he inherited. And if you're John Henry and that's the case, I don't understand why you let this continue.
And of course, that comment, the thing that should bother you most about that comment is that he leaves out the biggest factor in letting Mookie Betts go, and that was the money. It wasn't about the system. It wasn't about the Major League ranking, the minor league ranking. As much as it was, Henry was done paying top 3 payrolls. He wanted to become a mid-payroll team. That was the priority. Mookie Betts was the first domino. Dombrowski was really the first domino. Then Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts, never mind Evaldi Martinez along the way. That was the organizational goal on top of everything else, and Chaim Bloom has accomplished that. And they're still sort of hanging around despite losing 2 or 3 this weekend, John. Here are the wild card standings. Sox really needed 2 out of 3 in this one. But still, they're 4 games out in the loss column. I always have that 3-game mark really being the spot where you're in it or not in it. So they're just outside of that. Here come the Astros for 3 games starting tomorrow night. If this Red Sox team is, if the Red Sox are going to continue doing what they're doing all year, they're going to take 2 or 3 from Houston now and still just sort of lurk around on the fringes of this thing.
Yeah, or the counterpoint is they've lasted this long and they're about to run out of gas. We saw it today. We saw it this series, really. It's catching up to them, the fact that they have so many starters who can only go 4 innings and 3 innings and openers, and they're relying on Nick Pivetta a ton and Winkowski, and today Murphy was the sacrificial. So it's like all of that is catching up to them. So you say if they do what they're going to do, they'll win 2 out of 3. I say they lose this series, and we finally start September and say, okay, they're done.
Nope. They're going to win 2 out of 3 and just torture you, just keep you around, just enough to torture you, even though they're not going to do anything. They're going to keep sniffing around because that's what they've done all season long. Thanks, John.